Okay, good morning everybody. Just getting set up and we are...
Here is information from Reviewed.
We are just about ready to go. G'day folks, Rod here, welcome. How are we all? This is our Friday morning coffee chat with Rod and Q&A. So it's your opportunity to ask any questions about learning to paint. So make sure you have your coffee ready to go. And I love my coffee, so this is going to be our Friday morning coffee chats. That's good. My battery is going to go flat. I've been having a few problems with my battery. If you joined us on the live stream yesterday, you'll know that the battery has been causing an issue and I need to fix that up. So we may have to change battery shortly. And if it does go dead, just please leave a comment and then just be patient while I change it over. I've got to change my audio setup in here. And as you know, we're still experimenting. We're getting our live stream and everything working well. So we're getting there. We're getting there, right? And won't be long before we've got a setup where everything's working well. So welcome to those people just joining us for our coffee morning chat on a Friday morning. Welcome, Doreen. Please let me know whereabouts in the world you are, where you're tuning in from. And this is your opportunity for the next 40 minutes or so, maybe longer, that we're going to answer any questions you've got about learning to paint. So if you start off by just letting us know where you're dialing in from, which part of the world you're in, and we will just wait for a few more people to come online. G'day 8Track, welcome back. Peter, good morning mate, hope you're well. 6 p.m. in Omaha, Nebraska. Well, that's probably not a bad time for you guys over there. I'm sort of timing this so that it's in Australia on the east coast where I am. It is, 9 a.m. So that seems to work well for the US and New Zealand. Probably doesn't work so well for our friends in the UK and Ireland. So maybe we'll do the occasional live stream in the future in a time frame that is going to suit, the UK Ireland folks, because we've got a lot of people there as well. But certainly Canada and the US, I think this time slot works pretty well. And g'day John, I think it works well for John in Taiwan. You're probably a couple of hours behind us. Jerry, welcome on Facebook, and Linda in Maine, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And while we're just waiting for more people to come into the chat, I've got a few things I want to talk to you about today. One of which stems from yesterday's live stream where somebody asked me if I thought I was an Impressionist painter, and I was talking about some of my inspiration. So I want to talk further about that today. So I'm just making sure the aerial's out, and we'll also answer any questions you've got about learning to paint, or about the More method of painting, or about the Learn to Paint Academy, etc. So think of whatever questions you've got and start typing those in, and I'll try and get to everyone's questions. And I also want to give you an update on what's coming up in the Learn to Paint Academy, so that you know. I was going to share my screen, but I haven't quite worked out that side of the technology yet. Hi Jerry, hi Catherine, welcome back. And Wolfcat, g'day. Hi from the UK. Oh, it's just clicked over midnight there. So Wolfcat, I appreciate you joining me. I really do. Maybe you have trouble sleeping, and like I do, so you might be up all hours of the night. But hey, anyway, it's great to have you here. Hope well, maybe not for Wolfcat, because if you have coffee, you won't get to sleep. But I hope you've all got your coffee and you're ready to go. And welcome to those people joining us on Twitch. And I'm not sure if we're broadcasting to Periscope. We seem to have a few problems there, but that's okay. Alrighty, so while you guys think about what questions you want to ask or how I can help, I think what I'll do is change my battery, because if I get into the next section, then the battery goes flat. I'm probably not going to see your comments. So let me just mute the mic for 1 second, and I'll just switch those batteries over. Alrighty, you should all be able to hear me fine now. Apologies for that. As part of setting up the live stream studio here, one of the things that I did was, it's getting a bit hot. One of the things that I did was get a new audio pack, and it's chewing through the batteries, so I'm going to have to fix up the audio side of things, and we'll get that sorted out. But apologies for having to switch over there. So Wolfcat hasn't been able to sleep properly during the night since the last full moon. Okay, always been a night owl. Yeah, I understand. I'm a bit the same. So what we're going to do is, hopefully you've got some questions for me, but just while you think of questions, I'm going to talk to you about something that came up yesterday in the live stream. And somebody asked me what who my influences were, or actually the question was more about, do I think I'm an impressionist? Which I thought was an interesting question, and I just want to talk more about that and who my influences are. So when I use the word impressionist, I always think of the Australian impressionists, and I want to tell you a little bit about them, so you've got a little bit of background, and I'll show you a few photos of my favourite artist, which is Arthur Streeton. Now, he's an Australian artist that from about the 1870s. 1880s, somewhere around there, and he was part of a group of artists that became known as the Heidelberg Group, and he was one of the younger members. He was in his early 20s when he started, and the Heidelberg Group of artists included Tom Roberts, Frederick McCubbin, Charles Conder, who was a British artist who was in Australia at the time, and there were a few others, William Withers and others who sort of were on the fringe, but those main artists, they went around, and in Melbourne primarily, and at times in Sydney, they went around and painted the Australian landscape. And prior to them, I think my audio might be peaking out a little bit, I hope not, but yeah, prior to them coming along, there were European artists who were painting Australia, but they weren't capturing the essence and the feel and the light in Australia. So the Heidelberg Group of artists were the first group really to capture a good feeling of Australia in an impressionistic way. Now, this was happening at the same time as the European or the French impressionists, Monet, Renoir, Sisley, Pissarro, Cézanne at early stages, happening at the same time, right? So this is going on in unison. And I don't know that the Australian, well, certainly Tom Roberts had been in the UK and Europe, and maybe had got influenced by the French Impressionists, but I think for the most part they weren't that influenced early on. They were just doing what they thought was the right thing to capture the Australian landscape. And so when I was asked yesterday on the live stream, do I consider myself an impressionist? You know, my mind, I always go back to the Heidelberg Australian Impressionists, is the first thing I think about when it comes to Impressionism. And this photo on the screen here is one of Arthur Streeton's seascapes, which I absolutely love. And so these were all painted around, from 1870 through to the early 1900s, and just brilliant painters. They captured the feeling and the light of Australia better than anyone else at that time. So they became known as the Heidelberg School of Impressionists because they had a bush camp out at a place called Heidelberg. Now today, Heidelberg's just a suburb of Melbourne, right? It's one of the, I guess, probably an inner suburb these days, but at that time it was all bush. And they had to, I think there was a train that went out to, would have been a steam train out to Heidelberg, and then they hiked out to a camp area there and set up camp and painted around Heidelberg, and that's how the name came about. But they also painted in Box Hill and down on the peninsula, Mornington Peninsula and the Bellarine Peninsula. They painted all around there. So this is one of Arthur, the only photos I've got of Arthur Streeton's, because he's my favourite artist by far. And if I'm trying to capture a style, not that I am, but if I was, it would be Arthur Streeton would be, what I'd be looking to capture. And so, this is a vast landscape here. This is an unusual scene, that's why I've included this photo. You don't normally see Australian landscape artists painting sort of snow-capped peaks, so this is obviously up around country Victoria. where the alpine region is there. Bit of an unusual, subject, really. I'll come to questions in a moment. So I'll just walk you through these photos, and then we'll come to questions, I think, at the end of that, if that's okay. Just so I don't lose my train of thought, and then we can make sure we get everyone's questions answered as well. So so this is an unusual subject. This is probably not a typical subject, but everything we teach at the Learn to Paint Academy, you can sort of see in this painting. You've got the cool colours off in the distant mountains, and then as we come forward in these foreground grasses, you can see that they're warmer in tone, and you can see the recession in values heading back. So pretty much the methodology of starting out with your darks that we do, and putting in dark washes and setting up a values structure, and then coming back in and mid-tones and highlights is pretty much the approach, as far as I can gather. Now, obviously I wasn't around then, but as far as I can gather, that's pretty much the approach that these guys were using. Because they were painting plein air mostly, they were painting plein air mostly, and that meant in one sitting generally, not always, but in one sitting generally, they had to have a working methodology where you could paint a la Prima, right? So the best way to paint a la Prima is to put your darks down in a wash, so very thin, and let that dry out, and then come in with your midtones and your highlights. And your highlights usually have more white in them. Like if you look at that sky there's more white in that, and the highlighted grass area, there's more white. So you want to put your whites over darks that have already dried, otherwise you kill your darks, right? So if your darks are wet and you put lighter tones over it, you tend to kill your darks. And if you have a look at this painting here in particular, what I love about this is if you look at that shadow in there and those highlighted grasses there, have a look at the brush marks there. So they painted a la Prima, and they also painted in what I guess is best described as a painterly sort of feel. They left their brush marks in there, and that was part of the magic of that style, I think. If you have a look at the trees on the right-hand side, there's two trees there on the right-hand side. Really, they haven't really tried to paint a tree, have they? It's just like a little mass of dark, which has then got a mid-tone over that, and then there's some highlighted tones sort of in the front and the top and around to the right. So, and look at the tree trunks there. Pretty simple, really, but the overall effect is pretty powerful, wouldn't you agree? I think, when you stand back and look at it, and you've got to remember that paintings are meant to be designed to be looked at on the wall, and, so you're usually standing back, you've got a bit of distance, but when we actually are doing painting, what do? We're right up close to our paintings, right? So you have to keep that in mind. So very, very loose, very impressionistic, but also, Arthur Street, and left a lot of big brush marks in there, and they show through. And I think that's a really nice quality to have in your painting. Now, it's not everyone. Some people like really highly refined and finished paintings, but this is a style that I like, and so most of the teaching that we're going to do, obviously at the Learn to Paint Academy, is going to be along similar lines. It'd be nice to think that we were teaching like Arthur painted, but hey, he was one of the recognised great masters of painting. But you can see from this painting here, he's got that hillside with the trees, and then you've got that sneaky view around into the bay and those distant mountains, right? Which is kind of a motive that I like to paint a lot of, and I'll often do little quick sketches and studies and things with a strong foreground hill, strong foreground trees on the hill, and then a sneaky view around to a valley or a distant mountain. And I like that kind of style. So, and you can see, this photo's probably not a good resolution, but there's not a lot of detail there in the foreground at all, really. You've got some rocks there, which are pretty simple to do. And then there's a few bits of grasses and weeds that he's put in there. But the strength of the painting there is really the overall composition. Your big shapes is what creates the strength of that composition, I think. So that's an interesting one. I've got a couple more here to show you. This one is one of my favourite paintings of his. And if you are in Melbourne, Victoria, or if you ever get to visit, this is in the National Gallery of Victoria. And it's actually quite a large painting, beautifully framed. And it's a stunning, scene to look at. It is really quite a big painting, much bigger than your monitor that you're looking at it now on. And look at the movement in those clouds in the sky. I mean, technically he hasn't really painted accurate clouds really, but he's managed to capture a sense of movement, and the tones that he's used in the grasses and in the trees there gives it a feel of spring. And you've got the kids playing in the river there. Just a beautiful painting. And again though, there's, apart from a few grasses and weeds right in the foreground, there's not a huge amount of detail in that painting at all. You look at those mid-distance trees along that hillside out the back there, and they're just little marks of colour, right? But they're done in such a way with the right tone, the right shape and size and placement that they work, So that's a beautiful painting, one of my favourites. And this is a classic Australian painting that is often held up in great esteem, and so it should be. This is a painting that he did in Heidelberg, and again, if you look in the foreground grasses, you can see how warm the tone is there, and if you look into the distance, the grasses over on that far distant hill, they're really greyed off and muted tones, and then you get cooler tones with the mountain range and everything at the back. And the tone of the mountain range at the back there is almost the same value as the sky at the horizon line there. It's a little bit darker, just enough to make it stand out. A minimum of detail with his little people there. The tree is probably the one thing that's he's worked on the most, and it's a great representation of an Australian gum tree. But look at the foreground again. That bottom little row where he's put in the little flowers and weeds and a little bush. There's some detail there, but if you just move just slightly beyond that, there's no detail. It's just all, blurred field colours and subtle shifts in colour, but there's no real detail there at all. It's a underworked painting, but in the underworking of it, the more abstract shapes and things, what that does is it gives the viewer the opportunity to be able to fill in the details and make up the story and so on, rather than being highly worked and highly detailed. So this is a really interesting painting, this one. When I was living in Geelong, the Geelong Gallery, they purchased this painting at the time, and it was quite a big deal at the time. But it's just a terrific example of a sort of an intimate sort of little view through the trees down into the bay there. And but look at the brush marks in the foliage. I think it's really instructional as well. So that's another great example of minimal detail. Let's have a look at one more. Now this one I like. Yesterday we were talking about having a foreground shadow in our live stream. And have a look there at the foreground shadow on the left-hand side, leading down into the flock of sheep. Okay, and then you've got the warmer colours that are in light, and then as we go back into the distance, we go into the cool colours with the Grampians, I think it is, mountain range there. And again, look at the cloud formation, right? When you look at it in totality, it looks like a cluster of clouds there coming over the mountain range. But if you look at technically how do you paint a cloud, he hasn't really thought about that, or he hasn't put much focus into that at all. Okay, but there's a lot of movement and life in the cloud. Masterfully done, I think. So that's just a little bit of insight into one of my favourite artists, and somebody who I'm inspired by, Arthur Streeton, who I think probably inspired most Australian landscape artists, to be honest, until we get to about Fred Williams in the 1960s, who completely changed landscape painting. But so the answer to the question yesterday is, would I consider myself an Impressionist? I guess yes, along the lines of the Australian Impressionists. And later on in their career, Arthur Streeton went to Europe, and he was the war artist in World War I, I think it was. And Frederick McCubbin, also in around about 1905, I think it was, he went to Europe, and he saw the French Impressionists and the Post-Impressionists, and he came back and completely changed his style of painting. So they were influenced by the Europeans, but in the early years, not so much, right? So hope that's of interest. Let's see what questions you all have. Hi, Wendy in Ontario. Hi, Cindy. Ginny, hi. G'day, Liz in Ireland. Welcome. Yes, they are beautiful, Catherine. I definitely agree with you there. So no questions over on Facebook. Please feel free to ask me questions. I'm here to answer any questions. Let's have a look over on YouTube here. Wolfcat has a question. It's about water. I know that the colour of Atlantic Ocean is supposed to ultramarine blue, and the Pacific Ocean is supposed to be phthalo. Well, I guess that's open to your own interpretation, and also what palette you use. The Pacific Ocean. Well, we have the Pacific Ocean here, but I rarely use phthalo. I know some artists who do. It really comes down to what sort of look and feel that you want to have as a finish, and also the lighting conditions on the day and things like that. I don't think there's any hard and fast rules about that. Personally, I try and avoid using phthalo because I find it can dominate the painting too easily and too quickly. So experiment and see what works for you, I think, is probably the key. Barbara, I've been painting with acrylics for about a year. Now I'd like to try oils, but don't want to invest too much money in case I don't like it. Good question, Barbara. If you're in Australia, I would recommend, first of all, I'd recommend water mixable oils as opposed to traditional oils. For a number of reasons. I've done videos on that. You'll find those here on YouTube or on my Facebook page. But I would have a go at the water mixable oils. And if you don't want to spend too much money trying them, get a student grade. So if you're in Australia, I don't know if you are or not, but in Australia we have a brand called Montmart who have H2O water mixable oils, and they're great and they're affordable, right? But if you're not, get a student grade to try it out, and use a limited palette like we teach at the Learn to Paint Academy. You need French ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson or permanent alizarin crimson, or permanent crimson, depending on the brand, and yellow ochre and titanium white. So you need 4 tubes, right? That's all I'd get to play around. That's what I did, to play around with it. So I'd do that, but I would definitely suggest if you're an acrylic painter now, try the water mixable oils, because you used to water, right? And also they're better for you, for your health and so on. Just excuse me for one sec. Okay, sorry about that. So I hope that helps, Barbara. We've done a course at the Learn to Paint Academy on water mixable oils, so if you want help with that, but there's also some videos. In fact, the live stream painting that we did yesterday was all in water mixable oils. Okay, Wolfcat. Now with phthalo, you can mix wonderful aqua colors, especially if you add phthalo green to it, because the water reflects the sky and it's transparent. Yeah, look, phthalo does give you a whole range of other colors, but to me, phthalos are more tropical sort of colors, I think. It's just a personal thought, but I think it's more of a tropical color, and that's what I'd use it for, is tropical beach scenes. And I have used phthalo green and blue in tropical beach scenes in the past. But for the most of the painting I do, I'm in a subtropical environment here, and we quite often get very transparent looking water on a clear day. But I still use French ultramarine blue, yellow ochre, and if I want to just punch up the color a little bit in the greens of the water, I use a little bit of cadmium yellow. So that's my take on that. Water, if you're talking, water does reflect the sky, absolutely, but when you're painting a beach scene, the closer it gets to shore, the more the light is going through the water and bouncing back off the sand. So that's when you get that yellowy green tone closer to the shore. So just think about that. How come these different colors? Yeah, again, it comes down to personal preference, I think. Well, Heidelberg's a lovely university city. I knew it was a city in Germany, but I didn't realize there was a university there. Yeah, I agree with you, Wolfcat. Only try oils, traditional oils. I wouldn't even recommend traditional oils these days with the solvents because it's affected my health and probably lots of other people as well. The Impressionists discovered the shadow isn't black. That's true. Okay. All right. Wolfcat's having his own chat there, which is fine. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend water mixable oils for you, Barbara. That will definitely help you out. So, hi Lily in Queensland. Thank you for sharing your art expertise. My pleasure. Hi Louise in Canada. Yep, John uses limited palette in his Chinese painting, and to great effect as well. Thank you for joining us, Louis. Yeah, so do you guys have any other questions that I can help you with your painting? Feel free to ask. Feel free to ask. Just checking. Sorry, there we go. My pleasure, Gladys. My pleasure. I hope you're well. So if we don't have a lot of other questions, we'll wind up shortly. And I want to do these every Friday morning. So if you have questions during the week, you can make a note and then ask me on Friday morning chats. And we will answer them for you, right? And the other thing I want to do is do painting critiques, because one of the challenges I have during the week is I get lots of people sending me paintings and so on, and it's difficult to give detailed responses. But I thought on these Friday morning chats we would pick out 2 or 3 people's paintings who want critiques and feedback, and we could then give you an in-depth review of those paintings and spend some time really breaking down what's been done well and what could be improved. So feel free to send me your paintings and questions during the week. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is we are going to, I just want to give you an update on what's happening with the Learn to Paint Academy. So one of the first things is this chat for oils or acrylics. It's for both, Maryland. We, the Learn to Paint Academy, we teach both acrylic and oils. Traditional oils we used to teach, but we now teach it in water mixable oils. So it doesn't matter if you're an acrylic painter or an oil painter. The way we teach our courses and our projects will work for both. So yeah, so this, if you're either of those two, then this will work. Yeah, so there you go. So what's happening with the Learn to Paint Academy? One of the things I just want to point out is that when you log into the Learn to Paint Academy now, the first page you'll see is the members homepage. And there's a little welcome video. You don't have to watch that if you don't want to, but the first time you watch it, first time you log in and see it, please watch it. Underneath that, though, there will be news and updates. And that's where I'll be posting about what's been added to the site, when projects have been added up, when, lessons have been added to the different courses and so on. That'll all be posted sort of, if you scroll down, then you'll see all of that there. And please look at the updates and so on so that you know when we're adding new projects and things to the Learn to Paint Academy. And the other thing is I want to let you know that if you've seen my Rodmore art page and seen some of my painting that I'm exhibiting, I've got an exhibition coming up in a couple of weeks, you'll notice that my style has shifted to become a lot more looser, more bold and more expressionistic, I guess. And I've had a number of people say to me, can I do videos and courses on that looser style? So I'm going to launch probably next week a brand new course which is going to be called Looser, Bolder and More Expressionist Painting. And in that we'll do some big paintings, because I think the key to really loosening up is to paint big with big brushes. And we'll do that course. I'll do maybe 3 different painting projects, and I'll use some of my recent paintings that I've been doing. I don't think I've got any here to show you, but you can see them on my Rodmore art page. So I will do probably 3 demonstrations of bigger paintings, and we'll do some of them in acrylic and some of them in oils. So look out for that course, which I'll probably launch late next week. So it'll be called Looser, Bolder and More Expressionist. So that's the next course coming up. And then shortly after that, I'm going to be doing a course which will be more advanced painting. So subjects that are a bit more detailed, a bit more advanced, and that will run over 6 months. And this is for those who have been with us for a while, you've been through all of our beginner, and you want something a little more challenging, something you can sink your teeth into a bit more. So that will be advanced painting projects, and each project will probably take 3 or 4 hours, and I'll break it down to a lot more specific detail, and they'll be more complex sort of subjects as well. So look out for that one, and that'll be delivered 1 project per month over 6 months. Okay, let me just have a look here on Facebook. John's asked, how have you found painting in black and white has assisted with your painting technique? That's a really great question. Thanks, John. I think painting in black and white or in values studies is something that everyone should do as part of their practice. And some of our courses, we do go into that. But I think if you learn to paint in a grey scale, not just black and white, but you know, if you create like a 5 value scale with using black and white, then you can learn how to understand values better. And I think that's a critical part of having some level of realism in your painting as well. So good question, John. Highly recommend it for everyone. And in some of our courses, we do that very thing. We do value studies. G'day, Janet in Canada. Welcome. Martin, welcome. Tracy has asked, can you please show how to finish off an acrylic painting? That's a really good question. Yeah, we might do something, because I know a lot of the projects and courses we do, we don't really detail them up and finish them off. And there's also, what do you do once you've finished a painting? How do you sign it? How do you varnish it? Things like that. So we might do that, Tracy, as one of our up and coming art studio chats, maybe in a few weeks. So look out for that. I'm happy to do that as well. So thank you for your question. Wolfcat's a she, so my apologies, Wolfcat. My pleasure, Gladys. I'm glad you enjoyed them, and yeah, I think probably that's something we'll incorporate into our Friday morning coffee chats, is talking about other artists and some of their styles and what we can learn from them. Absolutely. Wolfcat's proper name is Lyko. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not, but welcome. Maryland Smith has asked, do I use retarder, matte mediums, so the paint doesn't dry too fast? Now, that's a good question. So I did discuss this in a couple of our live streams recently, but I'm happy to readdress it, Maryland. I do use retarder, and I do use mediums with acrylic paint, and also with oil paints. But what I've tried to do at the Learn to Paint Academy, and so all of our videos here on the YouTube channel and on Facebook are all part of Learn to Paint Academy. And you can go and check out our website. In fact, on the screen at the moment, you'll see we've got a free course at the Learn to Paint Academy at learntopaint.info, right? So you can go and register for a free course there. But what I found when I started teaching beginners about 6 years ago in workshops, one-day workshops and so on, is that the more complex it was, the more challenging it became for them. And so I started to simplify things right down. And instead of having 10 colors on the palette, we've reduced it down to 3 colors on the palette, right? Instead of having 15 different brushes, we gave them 3 brushes. And instead of having painting being this sort of like open-ended approach with no real start and finish point, we broke it down to 3 steps that followed logically, right? So what I was trying to do is try to simplify it right down. And I took out everything that made it more complex. So originally I was a Bill Alexander certified teacher, right? So you had your magic white and all sorts of different things going on, different tools and paints, and it was just too complex. So I simplified it right down, which meant taking out all the mediums as well. So when I've been teaching workshops and in a lot of our videos, I only ever use water with acrylics, and I found that by doing that, I was able to teach more people to get started painting and to get better results. So does that mean you don't use retarders to slow down the drying time? No, absolutely not. If you're happy to use them, then they're fantastic. In fact, in our Learn to Paint TV show this week, I used liquefying medium to make the paint flow smoother. So highly recommend them if you've got beyond that beginning stage, that initial stage, and you're looking to improve your paintings, then yeah, absolutely start to introduce retarders and so on. So I don't generally demonstrate them in our videos. However, in that more advanced course that I just talked about, looser, bolder, more expressive, we will use things like mediums in that course. So I hope that answers your question, Maryland. Thank you for the recommendation there, Wolfcat. Gladys has asked, what type of palette do you use for your paints? Is it paper? So if you've seen a lot of my videos, you'll know that I've had a paper palette up here on the backboard there. Now, that was purely for, have I got one here? Yeah, I'll show you. These tear-off palettes here, right? And I used that purely so that it could be suspended on the backboard, which meant I only needed to have one camera shot. However, I don't recommend those. They're good for cleaning up, obviously, because you just tear the sheet off. But I don't think they're necessarily a good palette as part of a setup of a studio, Gladys. What I have here, let me just get rid of that. This is a sheet of Perspex. And now that I've got multiple cameras in the studio, I'm able to put the Perspex onto a table, right? So a sheet of Perspex I think is much better to work on, and it's a bigger surface that I can work on as well. And I recommend something like that if you're an acrylic painter, or if you're a water mixable oil painter, then something like that is what I would recommend. However, if you are an traditional oil painter, you can just get a sheet of MDF board, just get a big sheet of MDF board and put that down and lay your colours out along the sides and have your mixing area. And then when you go to clean up, only clean the area that you use for mixing with a cloth and some solvent or water if you water. So you just clean that, and the more you keep cleaning that MDF board, you'll get this nice sheen that will develop over the top of it, and then it becomes a really nice surface to work on. You don't need a fancy palette, right? Just a sheet of MDF board or a sheet of Perspex is what I've got on the back table here, and that'll do the job perfectly fine. Okay, I think sometimes we get into a headspace where we think we have to have the right tools, and really, just a plank of wood to put your paint on is all we really need at the end of the day. So I hope that helps. G'day Nan, welcome. Eddie, welcome. I'm painting a church taken from a drone. Oh wow, nice. I've had an idea to get a drone and put it out over the ocean and get coastal shots and things, but I wasn't sure whether it would handle the wind, but that's really interesting. First time painting this way, thinking it easy, but I find it not so easy. Well, I can imagine, yeah, it'd be different angles, so you got to get your perspective right, especially of a church. Maybe try the drone to get like a panoramic landscape view and start off with something like that. But that's really interesting. I'd be keen to see the results of that. So well done. So any other questions? Anything else I can help you with at this stage, or are we all good? Are we all good? Gladys is saying, as I'm just learning, I love the simple palette of 3 to 4 colours. I can easily recreate a colour in my painting later on. Absolutely, yeah. I think one of the things that we miss as beginners especially is we get excited about painting and we go into the art supplies store and there's 450 colours, right? So manufacturers of art supplies, they're great at creating products. That's what they do. The more products they create, the more they sell, which is fine, right? But as a beginner or even an intermediate painter, if you go and get a tube color rather than learn how to mix it, I think you're robbing yourself of the experience of becoming a masterful artist, or having at least the opportunity to move in that direction. Because one of the fundamental skills of painting, I think, is color mixing and understanding your colors so well that, if I want to come back and work on this painting and I need to get that gray again or that green, knowing how to be able to mix it is so incredibly important. And I think a lot of beginners, they buy so many colors, they've got 25 colors laid out in their palette, that they get good at mixing mud. Because a lot of the manufactured colours, you've got to remember they're secondary or tertiary colours, right? So if you buy some exotic green and a quinaxidon purple or whatever it's called, and you start trying to mix those two together, then you're mixing two secondary colours, and it's no wonder you end up with mud, right? So understanding what a primary colour is and how to mix it to get your secondary colours, and then how to grey back your primary colours, all of that is so important to learn. And you need to learn it to the point where it becomes unconscious, right? For those who choose to join me in the Loose, Bold and Expressive course that we're going to release hopefully next week, what you'll see me do there, because it will be more advanced, what I will be doing there is not talking you through the colour mixing. I'm going to assume that you've got enough experience that you know how to mix colours. So you'll actually see me mixing colours without stopping and talking about it. It'll be more intuitive. You'll see me more in the zone, more in flow, right? And that only comes about when you've understood the fundamentals of colour mixing and colour, and then you do it enough times so that you're not consciously thinking about it. It shifts to your unconscious mind and it becomes this intuitive thing. And when you get to that point where you don't have to think about painting, we don't have to think about the mechanics of painting, then you can get really into the zone, and your creativity starts to flow out a lot more, right? And that's certainly been my experience. Another question, Wolfcat, what primary colours for acrylics do you recommend? I can ask in 3 different art stores and I get 3 different answers. Well, I've got the answer for you. I mean, ultimately it depends on what subject matter you most want to paint, right? So what we do at the Learn to Paint Academy is primarily landscape painting and seascape painting, okay? So the palette that we've worked out that is the best for landscape and seascape painting, doesn't matter if it's acrylics or oil paint or even watercolour, is this palette here. Let me get rid of our banner. Okay, so this is a little bit messy because this is from the demonstration that we did yesterday. So Wolfcat, you may want to look at our YouTube channel and find the 2-part live stream from yesterday and earlier in the week. But this is the palette, right? So we've got French ultramarine blue or ultramarine blue. Same thing, right? It's just that different manufacturers have different names for them, right? So French ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, or permanent alizarin crimson, or permanent crimson. Again, different manufacturers have different names. And then yellow ochre. Okay, so these are our primary colours: blue, red, and yellow. So yellow ochre for our yellow, and that's what we use because that gives you a brilliant landscape type palette with titanium white, right? Now, as a booster to that, so this is 80 to 90% of our painting is done with these colours here, and then we boost it with cadmium yellow, cadmium red, and cobalt blue, makes up about 10 to 20% of our palette. But you start with these 3 here in white and learn to mix those, right? Maryland Smith, yeah, we do, absolutely. I'll put it up on the screen here for you now. Okay, in the banner there. If you write down that web address, we give you a free course, which is a beginner course. And you go and take that free course, and I talk all about the colours. I talk about the Moore method of painting, which is 3 steps, 3 colours, 3 brushes. We've had 25,000 students come through the free course. And I get emails every day from people we've taught to paint. So go and visit that web address, www.learntopaint.info, and register for the free course. We've got lots of other paid courses there, and it's up to you whether you want to come and join us for those. But certainly the free course is an excellent beginner course, and it'll teach you how to paint. So please go and enroll in that, and I think you'll enjoy it. Steve, welcome. Thank you for subscribing, mate. I really appreciate that. Okay. John, I use a ceramic cheese board for acrylics. There you go. Easy to clean up afterwards. Veronica, glass plates from an old microwave make good palettes. Yes, they do. So you don't need fancy equipment, right? I'm all about simplicity. So yeah, glass palette from an old microwave. Tracy, did I hear you say you have a show on TV? We used to have a show on TV. It was called Plein Air Painting. Back in 2012, it was on broadcast all around Australia and New Zealand in prime time. However, we have a weekly online TV show and you'll find that at www.learntopaint.tv. Every week I produce a brand new project, and sometimes in acrylics, sometimes in oil paints. So every week, yep, we produce a new show. We do about 50 shows a year. And Tracy, I think you're connected to us on our Rod Moore Art page, but if you go over to our Learn to Paint Academy Facebook page, then you'll see all that happening there. Not only do we produce a weekly painting project, but we also have the art studio chat every week. We have the art biz show every week, and now we're doing 2 or 3 live streams a week as well. So yeah, but learntopaint.tv is where you'll find the weekly TV show, Tracy. Nan, I love that picture on the board. It was interesting. Yeah, that's the one we did yesterday, and I've left it there because I'm thinking I might have a play around with it, and just the sky needs a bit of work and so on. But we had fun doing that. The only thing for live stream is, let me get rid of that brush. I think it was probably a little bit long. I want to try and keep the projects down to a 1 hour episode and finish the painting in that time. So we might try some smaller, simpler projects in future episodes. But thank you, Nan. I appreciate that. We're just about ready to wrap it up. The ultramarine blue, is it a red shade? Ultramarine blue has red in it, so I guess it is a red shade. It's a blue that has, it's got more red in it than, I'm just having a look here at the tube. Look, if you've got a tube that says red shade, I'd probably avoid that and just get the standard ultramarine blue. But if the brand that you're using has like a red shade or a green shade, then yeah, I'd get the one that is more on the red side, yes. What size canvas do you recommend? Generally we paint, that's a 12 by 16 board, MDF board that's been prepared, 12 by 16 or 16 by 20, okay. All right, we are going to wrap it up there now. Because it is our Friday morning coffee chat with Rod, I'm going to give away a coffee mug. Who wants to win a coffee mug? First person that I see saying, yes, I want to win a coffee mug is going to win a coffee mug, and I'll send it out to you. So I'm just going to randomly flick back and forward between Periscope, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. And the first person I see, pardon me, first person that I see will win. Catherine Doyle, you're the first person. Congratulations. You get a limited edition Learn to Paint with Rod Moore coffee mug so that you can enjoy coffee with us on a Friday morning. So Catherine Doyle, if you contact me through our support, you can go to learntopaint.online/support or through Facebook chat on our Facebook page. Contact me there and let me know your details, and I'll send out a coffee mug to you. And congratulations, and thank you very much for watching. Sorry, Peter, Maryland. Very early morning, I won't say yes. That's okay, Wolfcat. We're more than happy to send it out to people around the world. Thank you everyone for saying yes. You've got to be quick. Got to be quick, and also make sure you're paying attention, right? So coffee mugs, I'll give out a coffee mug each Friday morning. And if you've been joining us on the live chat, we're giving away official Learn to Paint merchandise, our mouse mat, and this one's been particularly popular, although I've only got a couple left, is our art bag with the Learn to Paint logo and stuff on there. They're limited edition at the moment. I might get more done, I might not, but within a week or two, we'll probably have given them all away. But what I might do is also get some more Learn to Paint Academy hats. And and give those away as well. If you want me to give away prizes, I kind of like it. I think it's a bit of fun. So thank you all for joining me. And remember, for next Friday morning, if you want to get a detailed critique of your painting and you're happy for me to do it live in front of people who tune in and watch it later on, then email me through a painting or contact me through Facebook Messenger and say, hey Rod, I'd really love a critique of my painting and I'm happy to have it live. So email me through a good quality photo and we'll incorporate that into our Friday morning chats. And if you've got questions, you can email me those and we'll answer them on a Friday morning chat. Look out next week for the launch of the loose, bold and expressive painting course that we're going to release. Thank you all very much for joining me. Have a great day. Happy painting. And one last thing. If you are new to us here, thank you for joining us. Make sure you go to the web address on our page on the screen there. So you can register for a free course. I go through 4 or 5 different demonstration paintings. I explain to you more method of painting, and we've got a community there that you can join in with the conversation. So it's www.learntopaint.info. Go and check it out, register for the free course, and I'll see you there. But enjoy your painting and have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks very much for joining me. Cheers.